Hello and thanks for joining me. You know, a while back, about a month ago actually, I had the opportunity to see and hear the opera Silent Night down at the Kennedy Center, performed by Washington National Opera here in Washington, D.C. And I thought today would be a great day to do a quick chat on the opera Silent Night, since it has a tie-in to Christmas, and I'm filming this on Christmas Eve. So, yeah, let's chat for a few minutes about Silent Night. Here is my ticket. I saw this actually on November 17th. I saw the performance on November 17th, 2018, down at the Kennedy Center, performed by Washington National Opera, as I mentioned. And here is the playbill. This is not a graphic. This graphic is not from Silent Night, but let me just pull up the title page here. Here is the title page. Silent Night. The opera was composed by Kevin Putz, and the libretto is by Mark Campbell. Here is the cast. Kind of a big cast, so I'm not going to read the entire cast, but if you're interested in seeing the entire cast, then you can put the video on pause and check them out. The conductor was Nicole Pamont, and the director was Tomer Zvulun. So I hope I pronounced your names somewhat correctly. If I didn't, I do apologize. But yeah, Silent Night by Kevin Putz had its premiere actually in 2011, so it's a contemporary opera, and it premiered in St. Paul, Minnesota by the Minnesota Opera, so it's an American opera, premiered in 2011. It went on to win the Pulitzer Prize for Music in 2012, so it has received some accolades, and I think, from my opinion, with good reason. So what it's about, it actually pertains to the kind of the I guess, famous, in a way, Christmas truce of 1914 during World War I. The opera itself is based on the screenplay of a film. So let me just call up the film. The film was Joyeux Noël. This film was by Christian Carion, and I believe this came out around 2005. I might be wrong about the exact year, but a while back anyway, and this won several awards, including an Academy Award. But it's a beautiful film on which this opera is based, and it's all about the Christmas truce of 1914, which is a historical fact. So it actually occurred, which made it even more moving, I think, to the opera and the film. Just the fact that this actually happened. Of course, it might not have happened exactly like this, but nevertheless, it did actually happen. So what it's about, as the opera opens, we have this prologue. We have a couple of German singers, a tenor named Nicholas and his, fiance or lover Anna is the soprano, and they're performing in an opera in Berlin. And so during their performance, the performance is interrupted with an announcement that war has broken out. This, of course, is World War I. Then we also this focus shifts to Scotland, where a brother, Jonathan, is trying to convince his brother William to, I think it's that way, one of the brothers is trying to convince the other brother anyway, to join up, and go fight the war. And then the scene shifts to Paris, where we have a lieutenant in the French army, whose name is, I think, Audebert, who is getting sort of scolded by his very unhappy, very pregnant wife, because he has to leave to go to the war, and of course she's terrified for him, and because she's very pregnant and she doesn't want him to go, of course. So that sort of sets the stage that's the prologue of the opera. Then in Act 1 of the opera, it's a very violent, at this point, the prologue, when, that's in the summer, but then we skipped in Act 1, we skipped to December 23rd, 1914. The war is actually raging, full on at that point. And so it's a very violent day, and all of our main characters experience some violence during this day. day. The German opera singer Nicholas ends up having to kill someone, and then he's just sort of like horrified by the violence of it all. And William is actually killed. One of the Scottish brothers is actually killed. The other brother has to leave him dying on the battlefield, and it sort of is consumed by guilt for this. And then the French officer there's just been lots of men killed, and he's also thinks he's lost the photo of his wife, which is broken his heart basically. And so it's a very traumatic day for everyone. One of the most beautiful songs, I think, of the opera occurs sort of at the this night as they're going to bed that night. It's sung in all the languages, and it's about sleep. And the libretto, by the way, is available online. So I will link the libretto down below, and you will be able to see the lyrics to this song. It's very, very beautiful. It's very beautifully done because each of the opera is actually sung in the language of whoever's speaking. So if it's a German character, it's sung in German. If it's French, it's sung in French, and English in English. Of course, there were subtitles so we could understand what everybody was saying as far as when we're viewing the opera, but this sort of song that they all sing, and they all just want to be somewhere safe and warm. They want to go home, and they just want to sort of have this sort of safety of sleep, and so they're hoping that sleep comes, and they're all singing in their own languages this sort of hope. And that was just a beautiful scene to me. But anyway, so December 24th arrives the next day, and Nicholas gets word that he's going to have to go and sing for the Crown Prince, who is staying at a nearby chalet. And the Crown Prince has also sent some little Christmas trees as gifts to the soldiers, and they're just kind of like, what? I think the French soldiers got some gifts too, and I think the Scottish guys might have gotten some whiskey. I don't remember exactly, but the different sort of nationality groups each had something, but the Germans had these little Christmas trees. Well, Nicholas doesn't really want to do this. His commander sort of like kind of disses him about I like men who can do stuff and not sing, so go do what you need to do. But Nicholas goes off to sing. Well, who should be at the chalet also but Anna, his lover, our fiancée. And so they have a bit of a reunion, and she wants him to stay, I guess, through Christmas with her, and he's like, no, he's got to get back to, it's his duty to get back, so he leaves and goes back. Well, she follows him back. So she's there. She ends up there with him at the front, basically, and so they start singing. So they start singing. He starts singing a German Christmas carol, and then there's sort of this contest of singing. Sort of the Scottish guys will sing. They actually start playing the bagpipes, and finally Nicholas, the opera singer, he gets one of the little Christmas trees that the Crown Princess sent. He holds it up over the trench and comes out of the trench, and so the soldiers are just completely sort of astounded. They don't know if should we kill him? Should we So they end up the lieutenants sort of get together and have a little, talk, and they decide to have a truce, a brief truce, but since it's Christmas, and so they end up doing this, and the different men come out of their trenches, and they sing carols, and ultimately the chaplain, I think it's the Scottish chaplain, ends up holding this church service, and Anna, the soprano, she sings a very beautiful song of peace during this section, and it's just beautiful, really. They end up having this soccer game. They end up basically enjoying each other's company. They share the stuff they've gotten for Christmas, the little treats and things, chocolates and stuff. I think, the French guys had gotten some chocolates, the French soldiers, so they share that. And, it's just this sense of camaraderie and brotherhood. But, of course, they're all enemies, right? So this is what's so cool about it. And, then ultimately the brother, Jonathan, I think, one of the Scottish brothers, the one who didn't get killed, he sees the body of his brother, and he's actually seething with hatred. So he wants to get revenge. He is the one character that doesn't get drawn into this piece because he's got too much hatred, I guess, in his heart or whatever. He wants to bury his brother, and so they decide to extend the truce through Christmas in order to bury the dead, and they really help each other. Do this. Well, this ends up going through that day. There is the word gets back to the different commanders, though. Of course, this doesn't go over well with the commanding headquarters, right? Because soldiers who are singing Christmas carols to each other and sharing chocolates aren't killing each other, and that's the whole purpose of war, right? So they end up reassigning. Everybody gets reassigned or shifted to some other place. The French lieutenant gets sent to Verdun. The Scottish group gets sent to another front somewhere, and the German group does as well, I believe. If I remember right, though, Nicholas, the opera singer, and refuses to be parted with Anna again, and they cross lines and ask for asylum, I think, with the French, if I remember that right. But it was just beautifully done. There is the very ending of the opera, like I mentioned, the libretto is on online, so I will link to it below. But how the opera ends, I think they were taking direct quotes from letters and things, because like I mentioned, this was actually happened. And so this was being flashed on, in the production I saw, it was being flashed on the background like these excerpts. But just the last lines of the opera, the French, as they're remembering, they're all getting reassigned because, of course, the powers that be do not like the fact that they all got along. But the French soldiers, there's a French soldier who is remembering the Anna singing at the church, sort of the religious service, and he says, "And when she sang, she sounded like an angel." And the German soldier sings, "All of the men gathered around the cross as if it were a fire." And the Scottish soldier sings, "It was the most amazing thing. I shall never forget it." So to me, that was just so beautiful. They had these excerpts from real, I guess from real letters that people had written about this real event. And what a beautiful thing that was, this sort of spontaneous outbreak of peace in the middle of a horrible war. So very beautifully done. This opera was really quite moving in lots of places. So I am so glad that I got to see it. And I think Washington National Opera was performing this in November because of the 100-year anniversary of the end of World War I. So yeah, it was appropriate time, I think, to stage this production here in Washington. So I will leave the chat at that. I have more operas coming up in January, so I think I'm not sure what I'm seeing next, but I still have some operas coming up this season, and of course there will be chats to follow. So until then, Merry Christmas. There's my little tree changing colors. Merry Christmas to everybody, and have a Happy New Year.